The Last of Us 2 explained in 14 minutes or less. 3, 2, 1, go! The Last of Us 2 takes place 5 years after the events of the first game. The story begins with Joel explaining to Tommy what happened at the Salt Lake City Hospital 1 year earlier and how he saved Ellie from the Fireflies. The brothers then ride their horses into the town of Jackson, Wyoming, where Ellie and Joel have settled down. We see Ellie and Joel in the house where Ellie is listening to music. After that, Joel begins to play guitar, promising he will teach Ellie how to play one day. Fast forwarding 4 years, Ellie wakes up and we are introduced to Jesse, who is one of Ellie's friends. The two walk through Jackson as we get our first look at the town. They talk about last night's town party and how Ellie shared a kiss with Jesse's ex, Dina. We meet Dina as her and Ellie go out on a routine patrol after engaging in a snowball fight with some kids. We learn that Tommy and Joel are on their own patrol. A cutscene leads to us in a lodge in a house, and from there we meet two new characters, Abby and Owen. We learn that they are looking for a smuggler who they have tracked down to Jackson, Wyoming. Owen tells Abby that Mel, another member of their group, is pregnant with his baby. Abby is upset, and instead of following Owen back to the lodge, she goes on her own adventure. After exploring a bit as Abby, we play as Ellie once again as her and Dina are on their route. They run into some infected but manage to get rid of them. Ellie and Dina are separated after a huge snowstorm blows in. The two take refuge in a shelter that used to belong to a member of their group called Eugene. Meanwhile, Ellie and Dina spend the night together, confirming that they are now a couple. The game switches over to Abby, where she runs into a group of infected. She begins to run away, but she is saved by Joel and Tommy. The game then switches back to Ellie and Dina, who are talking and telling each other about their pasts. Ellie tells Dina that she is immune and that she had tattooed over her arm to cover up an old bite mark, but Dina doesn't believe her. Jesse shows up out of nowhere to tell them that Joel and Tommy have gone missing and have possibly been captured. Joel, Tommy, and Abby go back to the lodge where they meet the rest of the group. Joel and Tommy get a nervous feeling that their hosts know who they are. Abby shoots Joel in the leg, gets her friends to pin him down, and starts beating him with a golf club. Ellie shows up and tries to stop Abby from killing Joel, although he's already been beaten to a pulp. Ellie is pinned down and forced to watch Joel die. Ellie is spared. Dina finds Ellie, who is suffering from shock. She then meets up with Tommy. Ellie plans to go to Seattle as she noticed one of the group members wearing a WLF badge standing for Washington Liberation Front. Ellie is hellbent on getting revenge. Ellie visits Joel's grave in Jackson and tries her best to let go. Ellie and Dina go to Joel's house to pick up some belongings. At Joel's house, Ellie and Dina talk to Tommy's wife Maria. Maria informs them that Tommy has already left for Seattle and that they better bring it back in one piece. Ellie and Dina enter Seattle on horseback. They enter the Seattle QZ to find it heavily militarized. After getting to a gate and realizing the generator needs gas to start, they go to the Seattle courthouse to get gas and power the generator. After powering up the generator, Ellie and Dina enter the city and head for the Saravina Hotel. There they find two members of the WLF who they believe were slain by Tommy. As they ride more into town, they are caught by a trip mine that explodes and kills their horse. Ellie is taken hostage by the WLF, but Dina saves the day. Ellie finds a picture of a girl named Leah, who she believes knows where Abby is. Ellie learns that Leah is possibly hiding at a TV station near downtown, so the pair head there. When they arrive at the TV station, they realize Leah has been killed. Ellie and Dina get trapped in the building by infected and are forced to escape through the sewers. In the sewers, the duo encounters spores. As they fight off infected, Ellie's mask breaks, and Dina finds out that Ellie truly is immune. Avoiding the WLF and looking for Tommy, they run away from infected and take refuge in an abandoned theater. Dina reveals she is pregnant with Jesse's baby, since Ellie also revealed her secret. As Dina rests in the theater, Ellie goes to the stage and finds a guitar. She decides to practice, and playing the guitar triggers a flashback of her and Joel. 3 years in the past, Ellie and Joel are celebrating Ellie's birthday. Joel takes Ellie to a science museum. Joel's birthday gift for Ellie is a recording of the Apollo 11 spacecraft taking off, and Ellie and Joel share a heartfelt moment. As they're about to leave the museum, Ellie sees a painting of the Firefly symbol with the word liars under it. This is when she begins to believe Joel lied to her. Ellie wakes up in the present and Dina tells her the whereabouts of the WLF, a neighborhood called Hillcrest. Hearing of a lone male trespasser, she believes that's where Tommy is. Ellie lets Dina rest in the theater and goes on the hunt for Tommy alone. She runs into a lot of WLF soldiers in Hillcrest. Ellie is saved by Jesse, who has joined them in Seattle. Ellie and Jesse go on an epic car ride to get away from infected, then meet up back with Dina at the theater. As Jesse and Dina reconnect, Ellie has another flashback to 2 years earlier where her and Tommy were out hunting. Tommy teaches Ellie how to use a sniper and the two have a nice bonding moment. Tommy tries to convince Ellie to be more open with Joel as she has been quite cold lately. Ellie and Joel decide to run into town to get some guitar strings so Ellie can keep practicing. There they run into infected. After fighting the infected, Ellie confronts Joel and asks him if there are other immune people out there. Ellie is skeptical about Joel's words. Joel tries to convince Ellie that what the Fireflies told him is true, and she very reluctantly believes him. Back to the present, Dina informs Ellie of Nora's whereabouts, a member of the WLF that helped Abby locate and kill Joel. Dina tells Ellie that Nora is at the local hospital, so Ellie goes there by herself. On her way to the hospital, Ellie runs into Seraphites, a crazy cult that is trying to take over Seattle. Ellie interrogates Nora to get intel on Abby's whereabouts. Ellie is absolutely brutal, but she gets the information she needs. Abby is at the Seattle Marina, specifically at the aquarium. Back at the theater, Ellie is traumatized with what she has just done. Dina is there to comfort her once again. We relive another flashback 2 years earlier this time, where Ellie is in Salt Lake City at the hospital where her surgery was supposed to take place. Ellie goes into the surgery room and discovers a tape that explains that Ellie is the only immune survivor that the Fireflies know of so far. As Joel rides in and finds Ellie, who had left him a note saying she was going away, he tries to talk to her to see what's going on. Ellie demands Joel to tell her the truth of what happened that fateful day at the hospital. She gives him an ultimatum, tell her the truth and she stays, or lie and she'll run away forever. Joel tells Ellie the truth, that he took her from the doctors and that it was entirely his decision. Ellie breaks down as she feels a sense of survivor's guilt. Ellie tells Joel that she'll go back, but their relationship is effectively ruined. Back in the present, Jesse discovers that Dina is pregnant with a child, so him and Ellie agree to speed up their hunt for Abby so they can take Dina back to Jackson. Ellie and Jesse continue their search for Abby, but when faced with which route to take, the two split up. Ellie steals a boat and makes it to the marina as a harsh storm begins to set upon her. Instead of finding Abby, Ellie finds Owen and Mel. Ellie tries to interrogate Owen and Mel to give Abby's whereabouts. Owen tries to attack Ellie but gets shot. Mel tries to fight back too, but she gets shot too. Ellie looks at the two people she has just killed and realizes that Mel is pregnant, which causes her to lose hold of her emotions. Tommy and Jesse come in just in time to take Ellie away from the aquarium. Ellie leaves her map of Seattle behind, which is used to foreshadow what's coming. As the trio return back to the theater, an intruder enters. It is Abby, who has come for revenge on Owen and Mel's killer. As Jesse and Ellie run to the lobby to see what's going on, Jesse gets shot, killing him instantly. Ellie tries to tell Abby to let Tommy go as Ellie is the one she wants and not him. As Abby is about to shoot Ellie, the screen goes black. Now in control of Abby, we see a flashback to 4 years earlier where Abby is stationed in Salt Lake City. We meet Abby's dad, Jerry, who is a surgeon. Jerry and Marlene debate about the ethics of going along with Ellie's life-ending brain surgery. Jerry wants to do it, but Marlene hesitates. Eventually, she gives Jerry the green light. Abby finds out that her father has been murdered and starts planning for revenge. 3 days before the events of the theater, Abby and Manny prepare to go on a mission, and we get to see where the WLF's main base is, an old football stadium. Manny tells Abby that Mel is tagging along, which frustrates her. The trio leave the camp, and as they drive on, they are attacked by Seraphites. They crash the car and head out on foot. Abby and Mel have an awkward moment where they talk about Owen as he is Abby's ex and Mel's current boyfriend. They are once again ambushed by Seraphites, but this time saved by other WLF members. When they head back to the base, Manny and Abby go to talk to Nora, who tells them that Owen and another WLF member named Danny were out on a routine run. Danny returned to the base with a gunshot wound to his stomach, claiming that Owen shot him to protect the Seraphite, or as the WLF calls them, scars. Abby and Manny go to talk to Isaac, the leader of the WLF. He informs them that he is planning a large-scale attack on the Seraphite island and that he needs them as they are his best soldiers. After Isaac leaves, Abby tells Manny that she's going to go find Owen no matter what it takes. Manny says it's a suicide mission, but Abby goes regardless. A flashback to 3 years earlier shows Owen and Abby at the marina on a date as a couple. Owen wants to show Abby a cool aquarium that he's discovered. Abby and Owen have a great time at the aquarium, which shows that this location means something to Abby and will be important down the road. Back in the present, Abby sets off to find Owen. She believes he is at the aquarium, so that's where she goes. As she plows through infected, she is caught by the scars. Another flashback to 4 months earlier shows Abby and Owen having a somewhat awkward encounter since Owen is now dating Mel. Abby tells Owen that she knows the whereabouts of Tommy and she believes it's her best chance at finding Joel. Abby still wants to avenge her father's death and she sees this as her best chance. Back in the present, the scars prepare to execute Abby. A girl named Yara shows up. Yara gets her arm broken and as she is about to be killed, her sibling Lev comes in and saves the day. The two save Abby as well. Lev, Yara, and Abby try to escape the scars. Once they reach the port, they rest and Abby tends to Yara's broken arm. After leaving Lev and Yara, Abby makes it to the aquarium to find a drunken Owen in his boat. Owen explains why he shot Danny, prompting Abby to think he's only telling her the story because he's drunk. He also tells Abby that he believes the Fireflies are regrouping in Santa Barbara. Abby and Owen get into a fight, but make up very quickly and get it on, further complicating their emotional situation. Abby goes back to the port to pick up Lev and Yara. She takes them back to the aquarium. At the aquarium, we see that Mel is there too. Since Mel is a surgeon, Abby hopes that she can fix Yara's arm. Mel gives her a list of medical supplies, and Lev and Abby head to the hospital to find them. Lev tells Abby that there is a quicker way to get to the hospital by using the Seraphite bridges that are connected by the Seattle skyscrapers. Abby agrees. Abby and Lev fall off one of the bridges and land in a pool of water, only to realize they're stuck in a building filled with infected. The two clear out the building and head for the hospital by boat. Abby makes it to the hospital and leaves Lev behind for his own protection. Abby meets up with Nora. Abby asks where she can find the medical supplies, and Nora tells her the basement of the hospital. Nora warns Abby that the basement hasn't been touched since Outbreak Day, so there could be wildly mutated infected down there. Abby finds the medical supplies she needs in an ambulance. As she is about to leave, a very mutated infected attacks her. Abby kills the monster and leaves the hospital. Lev and Abby make it back to the aquarium and Yara's arm is successfully amputated. Lev and Yara argue about going to Santa Barbara. Yara wants to go, but Lev wants to go back to the Seraphite island to get his mom. Lev steals a boat without telling anyone and runs off to the island. Abby and Yara travel to the docks to try and find another boat since Lev took theirs. On the way there, Abby runs into Manny. Abby and Manny get ambushed by a sniper with deadly precision and try to flank him. Abby and Manny corner the sniper into a building. As they're about to get away, the sniper shoots and kills Manny. Abby and Yara finally get a boat and follow Lev to make sure he doesn't die. When they arrive at the island, they realize that the WLF are preparing to attack the island like Isaac mentioned, and it already may be too late to stop it. Abby and Yara find Lev in his home only to see that he has killed his mother. He explains it was self-defense, but he is ridden with guilt. Abby, Lev, and Yara attempt to escape the island only to be cornered by Isaac and the WLF. Yara sacrifices herself for Abby by shooting Isaac, giving her and Lev time to run away. Lev tells Abby to head to Haven, where there are boats they can use to escape the island. However, they come to see that Haven is on fire and WLF have already destroyed it. Abby and Lev ride on through the fire and make it to a boat where they head back to the aquarium. Abby and Lev go inside only to find that Owen and Mel have been killed. Abby is sick to her stomach when she sees what has happened. Lev shows Abby the map that Ellie dropped, and now Abby heads on to the theater to confront her. Back in the present, we see the gang in the theater right where we left off. Ellie is trying to give herself up to spare Tommy. Tommy attacks Abby, giving Ellie a chance to run away. Now cornered in the theater, Abby tries to fight Ellie, although she has no weapon and Ellie has a gun. Abby gets the upper hand on Ellie and is attempting to kill her. Dina comes in and saves Ellie, only to get her face bashed in by Abby. Abby spares the two of them, telling Ellie that she never wants to see her again. The game fast forwards about a year and a half to Ellie, Dina, and the newborn baby JJ on a farm. It seems as if Ellie and Dina have settled down in the countryside. Ellie goes to the barn to feed some sheep. She brings JJ along. Ellie has a panic attack about Joel's death in the barn, and Dina shows up and calms her down. The next day, Tommy arrives at the farm with information on Abby and Lev's whereabouts. He has tracked them down to a boat docked off the coast of Santa Barbara. Dina yells at Tommy for coming to her home and bringing back the demons of their pasts. Ellie can't sleep at night because of her PTSD. She begins to play the guitar to try and calm herself down. Ellie has another flashback to the day before Joel's death, at the party where Ellie and Dina had their first kiss. A man named Seth starts giving Ellie and Dina smack for kissing at a public event. Joel tries to intervene by telling the man that it's none of his business. Ellie steps in to tell Joel that it's none of his business either and that she doesn't need his protection anymore. This breaks Joel's heart. Back in the present, Ellie desperately wants to go to Santa Barbara to finally avenge Joel's death. Dina tells Ellie that if she leaves for Santa Barbara, she will leave Ellie on the farm. Regardless, Ellie leaves and embarks on yet another journey for revenge. We now see Abby and Lev in Santa Barbara. They are trying to track down the Fireflies, and a clue has taken them to an abandoned house. In the basement of the house, Abby finds a radio and tries to contact anyone who may be out there. A mysterious voice responds, asking Abby if she is a Firefly. When Abby answers all the questions correctly, he tells her to go to a tall, round building near the ocean front. As Abby and Lev are leaving the garage of the house, they are attacked by rattlers, a group of bandits, and are taken away. A few months later, we see Ellie in Santa Barbara. She is in the boat searching for clues of Abby's whereabouts. On her way to the abandoned house, Ellie is caught by a rattler trap and begins dangling from a tree. She gets impaled by a branch and subsequently passes out. She wakes up to two rattlers harassing her. She manages to kill them both and gets the location of the rattler hideout where she knows Abby is located. After making it to the rattler camp, Ellie fights her way through the camp in search of Abby. Ellie is still heavily wounded. A group of prisoners tells Ellie that Abby is down by the beachfront. At the beachfront, Ellie finds Abby and Lev tied to wooden poles along with other prisoners. She cuts them down and frees them both. Abby looks malnourished and much skinnier than her normal self. Ellie is about to let Abby and Lev sail off when a memory of Joel's dead body prompts her to fight Abby. Abby and Ellie fight, but both of them are clearly in rough shape. Ellie stabs Abby a couple of times, and Abby bites two of Ellie's fingers off. Ellie knocks Abby down, begins to choke her out, but then remembers that Abby spared her and Dina in Seattle, so this time around she spares Abby and Lev, showing that she is incapable of avenging Joel's death. Abby and Lev sail away into the mist. We return back to the farm as Ellie. Upon entering the house, we can see that it is mostly empty. Dina and JJ have left, most likely back to Jackson. Ellie goes up to the art room where she attempts to play Joel's guitar. Due to her missing ring and pinky finger, the notes are played eerily and she cannot play properly anymore. Ellie reminisces about her last encounter with Joel before his death, hours after the party. She tries to tell him to stop defending her and that she can take care of herself. Joel tries to defend himself and tell Ellie that he cares for her, but Ellie lashes out at him, telling him he should have let her die in the hospital because her life would have mattered, and that Joel took that away from her. Ellie tells Joel that she'll never be able to forgive him, but that she would like to try. Joel says he would like that, but you can hear the sadness in his voice. This is Ellie and Joel's last real encounter. Back in the present, Ellie realizes that she should not have held a grudge and leaves Joel's guitar at the farm since she can't play it anymore. In the final scene, we see Ellie walking off into the distance with an unknown future awaiting her. And that, my friends, is The Last of Us 2 explained in 14 minutes or less.